The galactic map stretched like an ocean of stars. Every system, every corridor of trade, and every empire's reached neatly outlined in luminous detail. Yet there was a void, a jagged black expanse carved into the center of known space. It was not uncharted because no one had tried. It was uncharted because no one returned. The words burned across every stellar atlas in a cold, clinical font. Human space. On the outer edge of that darkness sat the line, a navigational boundary that every pilot knew but none dared cross. Merchants passing near it whispered stories of ghost signals and drifting ships. War fleets that once skimmed too close had vanished without a trace. Some believed humans were extinct, their worlds abandoned long ago, yet their borders still devoured intruders. Others insisted humanity was alive, waiting like predators in the dark, unseen yet always watching. No one could say for certain. All that remained was the silence. The Galactic Council met frequently to debate it. Representatives of dozens of species gathered in gleaming chambers filled with banners of their empires. A hissing envoy from the ZHYR collective pounded the table with spindly claws. "It is a myth," he declared, voice vibrating with confidence. "No race that young could wield such power. The humans burned out long ago. We fear phantoms." An elder Carthan historian, her translucent crest shimmering under the chamber lights, spoke softly as though recalling an ancient nightmare. "I have studied the records," she said. "Whole sectors erased themselves from memory after the Silent Wars. Fleets ceased to exist overnight. Empires fell without battles, without survivors. The humans were there. We know in the gaps of history, where nothing remains." The hall erupted in arguments. Some scoffed at the notion that humans could frighten the galaxy. The DravCon Dominion's delegate, a broad-scale reptilian with glinting eyes, barked laughter. "Stories for hatchlings," he sneered. "If these humans existed, they would have conquered long ago. Power is never wasted." But not everyone shared the same confidence. The Ledhari representative shifted uneasily, her luminous tendrils curling tight around her seat. "Power," she whispered, "isn't always taken. Sometimes it is given by fear." Outside the chamber, the stories multiplied. Along the outer colonies, merchants told of a fleet of smugglers who dared the line, hoping to find undefended worlds. Their ships returned as wrecks, adrift, gutted of every scrap of valuable technology, while leaving the crew unharmed but catatonic, eyes blank, minds shattered by whatever they had seen. There were tales of spies, too. The Torgashi Union once dispatched infiltration units to human colonies. None reported back. Weeks later, a single encrypted transmission reached the Union's command. It contained nothing but a set of coordinates. When their fleet arrived, they found their own agents drifting in escape pods, alive but silent, as if their tongues had been cut from their very minds. More frightening still were the whispered claims that humans never fought wars in the way others understood. When a conflict arose, it did not drag on for years, with fleets clashing in spectacular battles. Instead, one day an empire would be vibrant, thriving, bristling with power. The next, it would simply stop. Systems went dark. Armies failed to answer calls. And within weeks, the memory of their existence faded into a hushed cautionary tale. Merchants, soldiers, even pirates all spoke of the same unspoken rule: never cross the line. The line was not a border. It was a warning. Past that threshold, reality seemed to belong to someone else. Ships that vanished left no traces, no black boxes, no wreckage, just absence, as if they had never been. Among the stars, an old recording circulated in the underbelly of galactic networks. Its origin was unknown, its authenticity debated, but it was always played in hushed tones. It showed the bridge of a warship, alarms blaring, officers shouting in panic. The captain, eyes wide with terror, spoke a final message before static consumed the feed. "They're here, but we can't see them." Still, disbelief thrived. Newer empires, drunk on their growing power, mocked the older races for their superstition. The DravCon Dominion, expanding rapidly, regarded human space as an opportunity, a vast, resource-rich region ripe for conquest. To them, the silence was weakness, not strength. And yet, Even as they prepared their fleets, whispers of caution spread across the galaxy. Those who had survived long enough to know better stayed silent. The Carthan historian once wrote a line that persisted like a curse. The greatest power is not in conquest, but in the fear that prevents it. Humanity does not guard their borders. The galaxy does it for them. And so the maps remained unchanged. The void of human space loomed like a wound in the cosmos, a place where star charts simply ended. New civilizations rose and fell around it, always redrawing borders, always daring each other to approach the edge. Yet not one dared to breach it, not truly. The line became more than a boundary. It became a story passed down to children across the galaxy. It was a final star, the last outpost, the point beyond which explorers refused to go. Even the boldest captains knew better than to test it. Trade ships could travel anywhere in the galaxy, but never plotted a course beyond that jagged mark. It was not war that kept the galaxy at bay. It was something deeper, something nameless. No one could say what humans did to those who crossed a line, only that those who tried were never seen again. Silence, total and unbroken, became humanity's answer to every incursion. Empires could grow, fight, and collapse in flames, yet human space remained untouched, unchallenged, and unclaimed. The galaxy's most detailed maps all ended the same way, with a cold, empty designation at the edge of known stars. And every species that looked upon it understood the truth, though none dared to speak it aloud. Beyond that border, there were rules older than power, and there was a presence that required no introduction. The galaxy knew the name written there, and the silence was louder than any warning. The Dravcon Dominion gathered in its grand war chambers, their scaled warlords standing around a massive holographic projection of the galactic map. The void of human space flickered in the center, an unclaimed expanse surrounded by resource-rich systems. To them, it was a temptation too great to ignore. For centuries, the cowards of the Council have spoken to humans as if they were gods. The Dominion's emperor hissed, his fangs glinting under the lights. But there are no gods, only the strong and the weak, and we are the strong. Strategists laid out plans with cold precision. They had spent years gathering intelligence, or so they believed, scanning border systems for signs of life. No trade signals, no war fleets, no transmissions, just silence. They've abandoned their territory, one admiral said confidently. These humans are ghosts clinging to dead worlds. We will sweep through them in days, and the galaxy will see the Dominion's rise is unstoppable. The invasion fleet was assembled in record time. Thousands of warships, each bristling with weapons and shield arrays, formed into a colossal armada. Rows of carriers carried assault craft, planetary siege units, and legions of soldiers ready to burn entire colonies into submission. The sheer scale of the fleet was enough to intimidate lesser empires. The Emperor himself addressed the troops. His voice carried across every ship. The line is a lie. We will show the galaxy that fear is for the weak. We will return not as conquerors of myth, but as rulers of reality. Other species watched in silence as the Dominion fleet moved toward the border. Merchants halted trade routes nearby. Independent captains veered away from their usual paths. On the Council's secure channels, debates raged. Some begged the Dominion to stop. Others watched, cold and silent, knowing that history was about to repeat itself. The older races said nothing. They had seen this before. The fleet reached the line. Navigational alarms pinged as the ships crossed the unmarked threshold that every star chart warned against. No response. No defenses appeared. The Dominion's admirals mocked the legends, laughing as they broadcast messages to prove their conquest. Inside human space, scanners showed nothing unusual. Empty colonies, abandoned stations, barren planets. The admirals exchanged smug glances. The humans are gone, one said. Their silence is their weakness. Orders were given to occupy the First World, a planet rich with rare metals. Dropships descended, soldiers deployed, and still there was nothing. No resistance, no response. But the first sign came in whispers. Ship captains reported brief, untraceable power fluctuations. Lights flickered. Sensor readings glitched for seconds before returning to normal. Then communication relays between ships began to fail, one by one. The admirals dismissed it as interference. The first disappearance was almost ignored. A cruiser at the edge of the formation stopped responding. Its signal cut off mid-sentence. No explosion, no trace of enemy fire. Then another ship vanished. Then another. The Dominion fleet's communications fractured as confusion spread. A frantic voice cut through the Admiralty channels. Admiral, we're losing ships. Just gone, like they were never here. Attempts to scan for attackers returned nothing. Weapon systems came online, firing blindly into void. But no targets appeared. Panic grew as ships disappeared in rapid succession, entire squadrons dropping off sensors without warning. A captain screamed over comms, "Something is inside our systems. Our defenses won't respond. Our shields are offline." Static swallowed his final words. The admirals tried to regroup, issuing retreat orders, but it was too late. Engines failed across the fleet. Navigation became useless. Ship after ship winked out, leaving only the cold silence of empty space behind. The flagship's bridge descended into chaos as alarms blared. Systems shut down, and crew members shouted in terror. The captain's final transmission was raw with fear. "They're here, but we can't see them." Then nothing. The Dominion fleet vanished from the galactic map. One moment, thousands of warships existed. The next, there was no trace they had ever been there. No wreckage, no signals, only silence. Across the galaxy, the news spread faster than any ship. The great Dominion fleet, gone without a single shot fired by the humans that no one had even seen. Entire civilizations watched the map update as the Dominion's vast armada simply disappeared. For the young races, it was disbelief. For the old ones, it was confirmation. The myths had never been myths. Every empire that had once mocked the line now stared at the void with new understanding. The silence was not weakness. It was a warning they had been too arrogant to heed. The disappearance of the Dominion fleet sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Markets collapsed overnight as traders rerouted their ships away from the human border. Lesser empires scrambled to secure their own territories, fearing that they might be next. The council held an emergency session, but no one dared propose retaliation. There was nothing to retaliate against. There had been no battle, no declaration of war, just the sudden erasure of a force powerful enough to dominate entire sectors. Rumors spread quickly. Some claimed the Dominion fleet had been captured and dismantled piece by piece, its technology stripped to fuel human innovation. Others whispered that humans had erased them entirely, leaving no wreckage because there was nothing left to find. The older species simply remained silent, their eyes grim, as if they had always known how this would end. Weeks later, a single transmission reached the Dominion homeworld. It carried no voice, no threats, just a set of coordinates. The Dominion scrambled to investigate, sending a smaller fleet to the given location. What they found was worse than destruction. Orbiting their capital planet with the husks of their once mighty armada, every ship intact yet powerless, systems stripped, weapons removed, and engines dead. The fleet had been returned to them, stacked in neat rows like trophies. There were no casualties. Every crew member was alive, unharmed physically, but silent and vacant, their eyes staring through anyone who looked at them. Captured officers who could still speak revealed fragments of what had happened. They described shadows moving through their ships, systems failing without explanation, entire decks emptied as if reality itself had been rewritten. No weapons fired, no soldiers confronted them. The humans had been everywhere and nowhere, dismantling the fleet from within, cutting communications, draining power, and vanishing before anyone could react. When asked why the humans had spared their lives, the answer was simple and terrifying. They said it wasn't necessary to kill us. We would remember this better alive. News of these words reached every corner of the galaxy. Suddenly, humanity was no longer a myth, but an undeniable force that needed neither war nor conquest to enforce its will. They had no need to build empires or display fleets. Their power lay in their restraint. A rare interview with a human admiral, one of the few times they ever spoke to outsiders, revealed a glimpse of their philosophy. "We learned long ago," she said calmly, "that wars only create more wars. We don't expand. We don't invade. But we remember, if you force our hand, We will end your war before you even understand it has begun. The words reverberated across every starfaring civilization. Humanity did not conquer through fear. They existed beyond it. They did not flaunt strength, yet strength surrounded them in silence. Their fleets did not patrol their borders because they didn't need to. Even among the galaxy's most powerful warlords, fear became a new kind of reverence. Plans to expand into human territory were abandoned. Generals who once dreamed of conquest erased such ambitions from their records. For the first time in living memory, the galaxy understood that there was no winning a war against a species that fought as humans did, without being seen, without needing to kill, and without ever declaring victory. One historian captured it best. Humanity's power is not their technology nor their fleets. It is their willingness to be patient. They fight only when they must, and when they do not merely win. They erase the need for war entirely. The phrase spread like a proverb. Fear the quiet ones. Fear the humans. The Dominion collapsed within months. Without its fleet, its conquered worlds revolted, and rival powers consumed its territories like scavengers. The Emperor who had once promised glory vanished from history, his name spoken only as a warning to those who might repeat his arrogance. The wreckage of the returned fleet remained in orbit above the Dominion homeworld, left untouched as a reminder of the price of crossing the line. No attempt was made to repair or relaunch those ships. They became monuments of defeat. Across the galaxy, borders shifted. Trade routes were redrawn to arc far from human space. Pirates abandoned any thought of raiding near the line, believing even a miscalculated jump might bring them too close. Children in distant star systems grew up hearing stories of the silent humans, the ones who never attacked but never forgave. Parents used a tale to teach caution. Stay away from the darkness on the map, or the quiet ones will take you. Even the most warlike civilizations sought quiet treaties. The Score war clans, long famed for their raiding, sent an unprovoked message of non-aggression to humanity. The humans never responded, yet the Score never crossed the line again. Entire alliances formed simply to maintain distance from human space, as though keeping away from the border itself was an act of survival. The Council stopped discussing military campaigns against humanity entirely. Instead, they debated how to coexist with a power that did not seek control but could not be challenged. The conclusion was unspoken yet unanimous. Leave them alone. An alien historian, one of the few brave enough to write about humans openly, published a final reflection. Humanity did not become the galaxy's greatest power through conquest. They became its greatest power by refusing to play the same game. Their borders are inviolate not because they're defended, but because the galaxy itself defends them, terrified of what happens otherwise. Decades later, the line was still there, unchanged. Fleets rose and fell, empires burned and were reborn, but the void of human space remained the same black scar on every galactic chart. Explorers told tales of ships that strayed too close, of transmissions that ended mid-sentence, of fleets that returned hollow and broken. And so, the unspoken law of the galaxy became simple: do not cross the line. It was not enforced by patrols, not written in treaties, and not guarded by fleets. It was enforced by fear, the most enduring power of all. Maps across every star system ended the same way. Brilliantly detailed regions of space, trade routes, and empire borders faded to nothing at the edge of human territory. There, in stark letters, was a word that silenced all ambitions: human space. No one dared to push past it anymore. No explorers, no merchants, no fleets. The silence beyond the line spoke louder than any threat ever could. And in that silence, humanity remained unseen, waiting as it always had. The galaxy did not know what would happen if someone defied the line again, and no one was willing to find out. The maps ended, the borders stopped, and beyond that boundary was only the void. Yet every being who looked upon it understood the same unspoken truth. The quiet ones needed no armies, no declarations, no grand battles. Their power was a fear they left behind. The line endured, and the galaxy obeyed it.